My name is Matthew Harffy. I'm the author of The Serpent Sword, which is the first novel in the Bernicia Chronicles. It's a series of books set in 7th century Northumbria in Britain, following the stories of a young man called Beorbrand who travels up from Kent into Northumbria and gets embroiled in the machinations of kings, and all sorts of fun things happen to him. He goes from a farm boy to a warrior, joins a king's warband, and ends up over the course of the series of books being a thane or a knight in the warband of different kings of the time. So it's historical fiction with a fictional character as a protagonist that leads the story through. Yeah, it was the first thing I wrote. So The Serpent Sword is the first novel I've written. 2015, I think I published actually, and self-published it, and then it was picked up by a traditional publisher in 2016. Started writing it in 2001, and then gave up after a few years. Then picked it up again when E.L. James got massive success with the self-published 50 Shades of Grey, and I decided that the time was right, with the world having the option of self-publishing, that I should finish the book and get it out there. So I did, and the rest is history. The spark that started the whole thing was I watched a TV documentary about Bamburgh Castle on the coast of Northumberland, and there was some graves that were uncovered by storms there in the sand dunes. People that were buried there dated back to the 7th century, and they talked in this documentary about how Northumberland was a very important kingdom in the 7th century and how Britain was split up into different kingdoms. And I'd lived in Northumberland as a child for a few years, and I'd been to Bamburgh Castle, and I was really interested in that whole coastline and the castles and the sort of history of the time. But I didn't know anything about the fact that there was this important kingdom and that it was like one of the most, if not the most important kingdom of the time. And something about it just sparked my interest. And I started that night after watching the documentary, I just went up to my computer and started writing, and I wrote the sort of first couple of pages of what would become the opening. But that was why, really. Something just interested me about this series, and I had a link with the place. And I then, over the ensuing years, I thought, oh, this would be easy. I'll write this guy Beorbrand's story. And then I started realising I had to do quite a bit of research. The next few years was buying books and reading books and watching documentaries and getting into the whole thing. And realising that what I thought would be one book that would cover Beorbrand's life from 17 right through to his old age. Actually, when I finished the first novel, what was becoming a novel-length story, I'd only covered about 7 or 8 months of his life. So I thought, actually, this needs to be a series. My day job when I started writing was as a technical writer, so I was writing, but I was writing manuals for software. So yeah, writing all day at a computer, which is the same sort of task as writing a novel, but not very exciting words. So writing stuff that wasn't the most engaging. So yeah, I found this to be much more fulfilling and much more interesting. Hopefully more interesting for people to read as well, because I don't think many people enjoy reading instruction manuals of how to use software. How do you get funding for a full series? And the traditional route is you get a pilot script written, and you have a treatment, and you basically then pitch through an agent potentially, but to producers and distributors. And we decided that rather than go down just that route, although we have got all of that stuff that we've written, we've got a script writer on board now in the team called Greg, and he's joined the team, and he's written a pilot script and a breakdown of the season in collaboration with me, talking about the storylines and everything. He's written the script, but we've collaborated very closely all together, and we've got a treatment put in place, and we've got some concept art and storyboards, and we've got a composer called Josh Evans involved to do original music for the piece. And so we've got all of this stuff to pitch to producers, but we thought what the real difference we could make to when you pitch something would be to actually have something to show what it is that we could produce, and what does it look like. Because it's one thing to say to someone, we want to produce something that looks epic but historically accurate, but I think when people hear historically accurate, they think that sounds boring. If we could produce something on screen that looks epic and we know is historically accurate, so we can say, look, this is historically accurate, but it looks epic and brilliant. This is what we could produce for you. Do you want to fund a full series? That's where this idea came from. So then we talked about we could potentially film the pilot, but then it was too much. It was like an hour of film, which would be impossible to do with no money. And so we came up with the idea then of scripting a trailer, which would be a proof of concept film. So it's a trailer for the whole series, so it takes element of the whole series. So we have lots of the characters from the series and moments of excitement and romance from the series, but only a few seconds each. But it was scripted by Greg to kind of tell an introductory story story to the book or to the series, and Beobrand, the main character, to give kind of an inkling of his story arc throughout the series, but as a scripted trailer. And so we broke it all down to scenes, and we've got lots of people involved who've got involved for nothing, because they find the project interesting and exciting, and so we've managed to rope in lots of professional actors to get involved. And the idea is that we then present this proof of concept trailer when it's ready, which should be only a couple of months now, because we're finishing filming soon, and then use that as a vehicle to entice producers and distributors in which we think a simple pitch with just paper and pictures wouldn't achieve as well. Obviously, the visual aspects of what the costumes are, what people look like, what the houses look like, what the shields look like, what the swords look like, all of the different elements that make up the visual world, all of those things we'd like to be as accurate as possible. In a book context, you can describe those things, but I think the reader very much has to rely on their own knowledge and their own understanding of things to build up that picture in their mind. I think a reader's perception could well be skewed by what they've seen before in terms of other TV adaptations or what they understand of history. So I think this would really bring home to people, this is what the things look like, and this is what they should look like, and so it will give someone an anchor for their imagination, I guess. Why not? I auditioned for drama school years ago, so if I get the chance for a cameo, yeah, definitely. I'd like to get killed on screen. I think that would be quite nice. Literally last week, the first book out that I've written that's outside of the series, which is called Wolf of Wessex, was published. It features an old warrior, recluse in Wessex, and he ends up getting embroiled in a murder, and he gets accused of a murder, and he ends up rescuing a young girl whose father's been murdered and trying to uncover the secret plots, being chased through the forests of Wessex as he tries to right the wrongs and to liberate this girl from the pursuers who want to get rid of her because she knows some dark secret. So that's the Wolf of Wessex, and I've already written another book that's now in the editing phase that's coming out in December, which is also will be the first of a new series. That's called A Time for Swords, which is again early medieval but set at the time of Lindisfarne, the first Viking attack. That follows a young monk called Hunlaf, who is there on Lindisfarne when the Vikings attack, but he decides that he's not going to run away like the rest of the monks, but he's going to fight back. That's the start of a new series. I don't know how many books there'll be. More information about me in the books, check out MATTHEHEWHARFFY.com, MatthewHarffy.com. This project website is theserpentsword.com. Yeah, I've got a Patreon page as well, so if you really want to contribute financially and get some interesting rewards to help us fund this or help us get further along the process, then please do so.